software asset management. So now this is going to start to look at some of my licensing. So what happens there is almost like that financial asset management. For my software licenses, I also need a place in Asset Core in client management to store, well, how many did we purchase? With the software inventory, I'm going to be able to see who has it installed. So it's helping me with my compliance. You'll quickly see if you're over licensed, if you're under licensed, and then from that point, the decisions that you need to make. It may be that you want to purchase additional licenses if you're over, or maybe you want to reclaim some of the licenses, because you'll notice the tracking the usage is also there. So maybe someone used it just for a short time. They're no longer using that application, so we can uninstall it and have it available. The second thing there talks about differentiating between the software suites and the individual applications. And a good example of this is Microsoft Office, Microsoft Premium. So each of those suites comes with several applications. Our normalization catalog, our software catalog, has done that normalization for you. So we would be able to detect if we've seen these 8 apps that makes up Office Professional versus me seeing these 4, and that's Office Premium. You're just putting your license details on Office Premium, and then we can see from there. So if we take a look at kind of the software asset management inside of client management, I'm going back into the console. And we're going to go under, let me collapse this packages, we're going to go under the application management. Okay, and so here with the software license management, I've got several open. Let's look at the Office suites. Make sure we end up with enough time here. So here I'm going to choose the Office 2010 Professional. And what I can see are several things. So here, when I hit this applications, I can see, I alluded to this, there's the 7 applications that make up Office 2010 Professional. Now, could you manage that and kind of keep up with Microsoft as they release those? Yes. Or you could just pass it off to BCM, because in that catalog, that normalization has occurred. Now, all you need to be concerned with is doing that software inventory so that it can start to plug in these holes for you. So here I can see my license information. Pull down this arrow, so my various vendors, the SKU, purchase order number, etc. So here's all your license information as it pertains to 2010 Professional. Any attachments you can do as well. Now, the one aspect that I was mentioning on the purpose built of BCM and having it separated, where I had everyone using the tool, but I was then going to kind of cut them off once they came in with what they were going to be able to do. So each of my objects inside of BCM has this security tab where I'm going to be able to say a particular person, a particular group, what can they do. So here I'm allowing everyone read, write, assign access. But there's where you can start to carve that out and say they have no access, or if they do have access, maybe it's limited to only reading. All right, so the one that it landed on, though, was the dashboard. And, of course, this is the most interesting. So I'm able to see there in the upper left, we've purchased 4 copies of that software. You have the ability to authorize certain groups or users in your environment to software. And so that's what you'll see listed here under this second bar. Very easy to do that, and really when we're looking here on the left, this assigned object. So here I pulled out 2 device groups, but even when you do that, you can kind of override and say, although I'm saying the Windows 7 devices are authorized, this particular one is not authorized. Okay, then I can also see as well who has it installed and then what we have available. Over here, again, is my authorization. This dashboard interactive, I'm just going in and looking at the unauthorized machine, and let me set this back so we look at all results and explain this really quick. So over here on the left, you'll recall, is where I'm saying who's authorized and unauthorized. So when I come in here and I see the first however many machines that is are unauthorized and they do not have it installed, well, they're in compliance. right? I'm authorizing you to use it. You do have it installed, so you're compliant. The next set of machines I've said are unauthorized. So now when I see that you have it installed, you're not compliant. So at this point, as an administrator, I can start to do some homework. Did they need it for a project? Do they still need it? Maybe we need to make them authorized to use it, etc. But my, if you will, overarching authorization was saying that he should not have that. So that's what you'll see. I'm just going to head back to this dashboard. That's what you're going to be able to see quickly on this chart. So machines being authorized or not, and then the compliance. Okay, so again, from a software license perspective. All right, so if we head back in here and just kind of peruse through here, the suites applications we've seen again with that software catalog. We took a look at the MyApps, again, because that's baked into that agent as a part of the software distribution. You don't have to push it on them. I can just make it where it's advertised, and then they can come in at their leisure and do that installation. Okay, so here we talk about managing IT risk and exposure. So hopefully you don't know, but if you've experienced an audit and you were found to have been utilizing too much software, so there was a fine to pay. With this, you've seen how you could potentially put in your licensing, and then it's going to do that reconciliation for you and make it presentable in that graph. And then again, you can start to make the decisions that you need to with respect to getting additional licenses or uninstalling software from machines where it should not be. You'll see here blocking access to devices and network with the peripheral device. So in addition to blocking those, if you want to block software, we can do that as well. You may want to block streaming devices from running in the application. They're using too much bandwidth. You can kind of get in the front of that and do your research and know what the streaming apps are, what the latest ones are, and block those before they enter. Or you can look at what the software inventory found and then block accordingly. So a couple of ways to handle that. That last bullet talks about monitoring the compliance status against predefined standards. So this gets into talking about that PCI and looking at it from that dashboard. And so what I'm going to do is kind of break in and show you under the compliance module how we would set that up. You'll get the compliance, the PCI out of the box, but it's kind of just a template, and usually people are adding to that template with what makes sense in their environment. Okay, so if we take a look at that, here what I'm going to do is collapse my software and go into this compliance hive. And what we'll see is the PCI again. You'll remember when we were looking at the inventory for that one machine, spyware installed, virus updated. So that was kind of a part of that compliance. So what you'll see here from an administrative perspective is how you set that up. So here I have my installation, and really the criteria is just that it's installed and enabled. If it is, that gets a check. And then quickly here we can see the results. Okay? So I'll have that for my spyware installation and the update. Update, out of the box, we're saying within the last week. You may need to tune that up or down accordingly. But again, very easy to do. It's just that criteria. And again, that results tab is showing you across the environment who's meeting that compliance and who is not. But you'll see it for the spyware, the antivirus, the firewall, patch management, is that installed and enabled. But again, in your environment, you may have additional ones that you want to add to your PCI, which you can do. And then what you end up with is this dashboard. It's just a dashboard of the results. Maybe something you need to present to upper management, letting them know how we stand on any given compliance. What you'll see here on the left as well, while we were looking at PCI, maybe I have hardware configurations that I want to check against. And so here, what I'm able to see quickly, again, the criteria. So here I'm looking at memory, free disk space, and the BIOS. Those are my three criteria. And then I'm looking at that across, and you'll notice here it's got to be all three, and then we can look at the results to see if we're in or out of compliance with respect to our system configuration and more specifically this hardware compliance. Okay, so very granular there, what you're going to be able to check on with respect to compliance. It's not just PCI. It's not just hardware. It can be the software. It can be basically anything that I've checked from my agent being installed on those devices. Okay, so I think we have maybe one more. Do a resume on this. So here we really were talking about the compliance, yes, patch management. And the key takeaway here with the patch management is that it can be not only the operating system, but these third-party apps that are sitting on the operating systems. So often is the case, Java, Adobe, those things end up updating, it seems like once a week. But that's because the auto update is turned on in the application. Well, now when we take that onus off of the machine itself or the user, we're going to take that over from an IT perspective. Why? Well, when Java updates, it's pulling down the latest Java release, but that may have some interference with one of our applications. So now what I've done is broke one of our mission-critical applications, or our user accessing that mission-critical application. Now I've got to do a lot of kind of understanding what happened, what updates did you do. I've got to roll you back out of it. So we can kind of get that under control, stop the auto update of the applications, and take it over from an IT perspective. So more than just the operating system, those third-party apps, if you happen to have a custom app, can you send that patch down? Yes, it just happens to be through the application management, because my patch management, that scanning isn't going to know about your custom application. So if we take a look at this one, let's get back into the console. I'm going to go under the patch management, and what we'll see here are basically, I've got four hives there. I've got my manager, my detector, my jobs, and then kind of what it looks like from a deployment perspective. This patch manager is just this, I'm saying, hey, go out once a week, maybe twice a month, to see if there have been any updates or patches that were released. Okay, so once I do that, and I can just see here where it's running, so you got the configurations, I can then start to see the bulletins by product, by year, service packs, etc. I'm hitting this products just so you can see quickly. When I mentioned third-party applications, here's all the third-party applications that it knows about natively. And what you can see as well is how many devices have that installed that I would need to potentially be concerned about patching. If we look at them by year, and I'll just kind of run through this. Oh, I did one. Perfect. So here I only want to look for critical Java patches, up to today. So I can see basically I've got two. And I've got devices that have that. So there again, it could be potentially something that I want to go ahead and patch. You can back this up and look at all of them. It just gets more exhaustive. So there I'm not looking for Java. I'm looking, for everything. And so critical up until today, quite exhaustive. If I uncheck critical, then it would be even more exhaustive. So many different ways to go out there and look at the patches that you want to deploy. I'm collapsing this, and I'm going to go into the patch detection, because now what it's doing is looking at patches that are missing, let's say, from a given device or a given set of devices. So here I can look at it from a device group, or I can look at a particular device. And again, just for the screen's sake, I'm going to say missing from this particular machine. And I can see 108 missing, 304 installed, and then again, here's a delineation of what those patches are. So this is the one that had the Java issue going on. So again, something that I may want to patch. I can do one-offs if I wanted to and patch it right here, or create a job, because typically we're doing a one-to-many patch, not a one-to-one.